In today's strategic briefing, we're addressing a problem most founders don't see until growth starts creating pressure instead of leverage. Scalable services aren't built by more effort. They're built by three structural decisions. And by the end of this briefing, you'll clearly see why working harder never makes a service scalable, the three decisions that determine whether growth multiplies strength or chaos, and how to evaluate whether your service is structurally ready to scale. Welcome to the Strategic Briefing, where we cut through surface problems and uncover the moves that top CEOs use to scale with confidence. This series isn't about tactics, it's about architecture. Now, most founders believe scale comes from more effort. We're talking about more marketing, more hiring, more systems, more sales pressure. But scale doesn't come from intensity, it comes from design. Let's talk about the scale myth. Here's the pattern I've seen repeatedly. Revenue grows, demand increases, the team works harder, but the business, the way it moves, feels heavier. More approvals, more questions, more exceptions, more owner involvement. Now, that's not a capacity problem, that's a structure problem. And if your service isn't built to run without you, growth simply increases your dependency, which means you're not scaling. You're stretching, and stretching like a rubber band eventually snaps. The first decision that makes a service scalable is this. What exactly do you deliver, and where does it start and stop? You know, most of the service businesses I talk with, what they're doing is loosely defined. Scope creeps, customizations multiply, and exceptions become normal. But if your core unit of value isn't clearly defined, you can't delegate it, you can't measure it, and you can't optimize it. You're just resolving the same problem over and over. Scalable services, on the other hand, are built around a clearly defined core outcome, not vague value, not we'll customize it for you. It's a defined result, a decision that's won. Now, the second decision is harder. Where does the work rely on you? Is it approvals, final edits, pricing exceptions, client reassurance? Listen, if delivery flows through the founder, scaling will always stall at your calendar. This doesn't mean you disappear. It means the service must function without your constant intervention. We're talking about clear handoffs, defined authority in advance, and predictable workflow. Now, if the owner is the operating system, scale's capped. That's something I had to learn the hard way. So decision 2 is removing that dependency. The third decision is timing. You know, most founders try to grow before workflow's clean. They add marketing, they add ads, they push sales. But if the workflow isn't tight, volume exposes friction. Your delays are going to increase. The errors are going to increase. Rework, stress, all of this increases because scale multiplies what already exists. If the workflow is clean, scale multiplies efficiency. If it's messy, scale multiplies chaos. It's very simple. So decision 3 is sequencing, workflow before volume, always. Now, before we go further, it's worth checking something. This week's framework fix is the Workflow Mastery Snapshot. It helps you evaluate whether your current delivery model is structurally clean or whether friction is quietly building underneath growth. It's not a deep diagnostic, just 8 questions as a clarity tool. And if you're serious about scaling this year, it's worth 5 minutes. You'll find the link in the description below. Now, let's finish this episode properly. If scale feels challenging, one of these decisions hasn't been made. Either your core unit of value isn't defined, delivery still depends on you, or workflow hasn't cleaned before adding volume. Too many founders try to fix scaling with intensity. Top CEOs fix it with architecture. And that's the difference. You don't scale by pushing harder. You scale by making 3 structural decisions in the right order. Define the value, remove the dependency, clean the workflow. Then, and only then, consider adding volume. Because if you skip that order, growth will always feel like pressure. But if you respect that order, growth starts to feel lighter. I'm Randy Bridges, and this has been your Entrepreneur's Strategic Briefing, where we cut through surface problems and uncover the moves that top CEOs use to scale with confidence. I'll see you back here next week.